And we are live. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday night. Happy Thrawn's Day. We're here to talk about all things Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising. It's a sec. We got the boys back together. We got a full squad. I am ready. You are ready? Wes, punch it. Yes! All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Living Force Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me for the first time in what feels like centuries is the full squad of doctors. First, we got Dr. Corey Helton. Hey, man.
Sorry, I thought you were going to introduce Charles first.
I just heard you aspirate from states away.
I thought you were going to introduce Charles first. You were like joining us for ages ago. Woo! Off to a great start. Here we go.
Right,
what's up, friends?
All right, now we'll do the second intro. Dr. Charles Hankel, hey, man.
Hey, guys, what's going on? I've been seeing a lot of the Twitter rumor mills going. I was not fired from this show. Okay, I want to make that clear. I was busy.
You were busy. You are here to do whatever the heck it is we keep doing. We're so happy to have you back. And, of course, we have the man behind the keys himself, making us all look so pretty, Wes Jenkins.
What's up? Glad to have you back, Charles. We missed you dearly.
I didn't miss you, Charles.
I know. You told me off. You told me off air. You can't take that back.
Damn it. You're right. You're right.
We got the receipts. Oh, well, if this is your first time joining us, welcome, everyone. We are the Living Force Podcast. We are the official podcast of Youtini.com, one of the most inclusive and positive fan communities in the galaxy. If you're new to reading Star Wars, you got to check out Youtini.com. We got reviews. We got reading guides. We got everything you need to dive into and explore the Star Wars galaxy. And, of course, we got our vibrant online community at Youtini.com/Discord with some of the best people on the internet. I'm just saying, I've met them digitally, and they're very cool. We talk about all things Youtini over there, all things Star Wars, and of course, we have a Patreon, jam-packed with hours of extra content at patreon.com/Youtini. We host this live show on Twitch every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the audio podcast is released Thursdays for our patrons and Fridays for everyone. Thanks for joining us. All right. Hi, guys.
What's up?
Hi.
Hello.
I'm very excited about this episode.
We haven't done this in so long.
I know. The four of us, we haven't been together in at least a month-ish. How long did you do that rotation, Charles?
Yeah, a month. I mean, it was all of September.
What
Believe
did you?
Me, I counted the hours.
What did you let the listeners in a little bit on some of the life of Dr. Charles Hankel a little bit? What were you doing?
Yeah, I was working in the medical ICU, so the sickest of the sick in the hospital. Right now, unfortunately, that means a lot of COVID. Slam pack teams the whole time. I mean, working probably on average about 80 hours a week, which is like the max you're really allowed to work as a resident. And I don't remember much of it because I blacked it all out and now I'm here.
Well, most importantly, before you got here, your very own Miami Heat won a game in the NBA Finals. You are repping that shirt. And I do think Charles had texted you this a while or throughout the month. Your misery is the reason that the Heat are doing so well.
Well,
what do you think
then maybe I need to go back to the ICU at least for the next 3 games or so.
Well, if that's worth it, then I'm afraid we can't let you do that because everyone, this is part 1 of a 2-part roundtable on Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising. We cannot wait. I'll speak for all of us. We can't wait to talk about it in here just a little bit. We have a little bit of business to get to before that, though. I'm very excited to welcome a new patron. Am I welcoming a new patron? Wait a minute. No, I'm not. Am I?
I don't know. Are you?
Written here. I don't think so.
We'll hold
No,
off.
our patron of the week. That's what it is. My mistake, everyone. Well, hey, if you were a new patron, that's the intro you could have gotten. So just know that if you want to go to patreon.com/Youtini and sign up this week, I'll try to replicate that next week. But most importantly, everyone, we want to kick it over to our patron of the week this week, Ken Jackson. Wes, if you'd be so kind.
Greetings, Youtini community. My name is Ken. I'm from Blissfield, Michigan, and I was selected as the patron of the week. Now, my love for Star Wars first began when the special editions came out in theaters. I remember my parents taking me to see it and just being terrified when Darth Vader first came on screen. But I loved the droids, and 3PO and R2 really helped me see it through to the end. And I'm so glad, because when that Death Star blew up, it blew my mind also. And to this day, that's my favorite Star Wars movie. Not long after that, my grandma took me to the bookstore. Like so many other Youtini members, I remember walking in and just seeing hundreds of Star Wars books on the bookshelf. I had no idea there was this many Star Wars books. I selected X-Wing Rogue Squadron just because I liked the cover art, and it ended up being one of my favorite series of both Legacy and Canon. I was first introduced to Youtini when Corey came on another podcast to talk about the bookshelf he had created, as well as the book boxes he was shipping out. Now, you might recognize me from a lot of the unboxing photos I used to post on Facebook, mostly with my dog. Now, I came for the books, but I stuck around for the community. From the Facebook page, to the Discord, to the podcast, you guys are all awesome, and I'm proud to be a part of this community. Now, I'm most looking forward to the conclusion of the Alphabet Squadron series. It really harkens back to the old X-Wing series, which, as I've said, got me started and is one of my favorites. And I would really love to see how this story wraps up. Since it's October, I'd really like to ask the hosts, if you could have one horror-themed canon book, what would it be? Thank you for listening. It's been an honor to be selected as the patron of the week. Now let's get back to the show.
Wow. Ken coming in with the multicam setup.
Oh my gosh.
The OG Youtini book box and poster. I saw that totally not copyright Thrawn poster in the background. Like,
That's right.
Ken is an, like you said, he's an OG Youtinian.
He has. Awesome. Ken has literally been around since like the absolute very beginning. I mean, like he was like his name was on so many boxes. Like I would have to actually look to see who was on first, him or Patrick. They were both on absolutely forever, like back when we were shipping book boxes out. And like there's a couple things about that video we have to break down. First of all, Ken was wearing a microphone, had a multicam setup. That was like the new standard for Patron of the Week videos. That was fantastic.
What you trying to say here, Ken? Like,
That's right.
We got one camera here. I'm not getting a lapel
there was
mic. My God.
There was a Thrawn jersey in the background. Did you guys see that?
Thrawn
That was fantastic.
Yes.
Yes.
That was sick.
Excellent.
He held on to the original book box.
Yeah, what have you been doing with that box, Ken?
God, I remember the Slack
box.
day when you got the Youtini brand tape and we're like, this is it.
That's right.
This is the one.
I
How
remember.
excited are you
God.
when you got that?
I was pretty
Like,
jacked, man.
It was cool.
I was pretty
Well,
jacked.
hey,
I still have a bunch of that laying around, the tape. If we ever need it shipped anywhere, I got a bunch of it left. So,
well, here we go. Future Patreon perk, Youtini tape. But let's address Ken's question. It is October now, my favorite month of the year. Not only because it's my birthday month, but it is. Ken asked us if we could have one horror-themed canon book, what would we want? Now, obviously, we got Dark Legends that had a bunch of short stories, but anything popping out to you guys? We, in all fairness, we did listen to this earlier, and I said, "Oh, we have time to think about it." I did not.
yeah, I didn't really think about it either, but something that just comes to mind, like just right off the top of my head. Do you remember the episode of Clone Wars where like Ahsoka and that old guy, they go off on that like kind of adventure together to like try to figure out, let's see, am I thinking about this right? Was it a killer? Was it a murder? Yeah, it was a murder, right? Yeah. And it ends up being those two alien chicks.
It's Sanube.
Yes, yeah. Ahsoka and Kenobi, and there's these two alien ladies that are like super guilty, and they run from her, and they get her lightsabers. Okay, you remember that entire arc? Okay,
Yes.
so how about a horror book that's like similar vein in that there's like a serial killer on Coruscant or something like that. Like not
That'd be cool, like a Jack the Ripper type killer.
Exactly. Like this is like nothing like that has ever been done before. We have stuff like what's what book we read back in the day?
Death Troopers.
Death Troopers. Yeah, we have like zombie stuff, and we have the mind control stuff of the Geonosians in the Clone Wars and stuff, but we don't have anything that's just like straight murderer, right? Like sicko, crazy person.
Hope and light and like civility. We need some straight up murder.
Yes. Yes.
I do like that. I also think that maybe we could get an expansion on the Geonosis worm story. Like those Clone Wars episodes are so terrifying. Yeah. When the brain worms take over Ahsoka and all them. So as far as straight up horror goes, I think you got to go to something kind of biological and creepy. Maybe that's because I'm reading NJO right now and I'm into like the Yuzan Vong stuff.
Yeah.
But like bioterror is just absolutely horrifying. And I got a shout out in the chat. We got Spice Den and Meg saying the Galaxy of Fear, just canonize it.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Written.
Galaxy of Fear.
I think I want like Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's Darth Maul with little lightsaber fingers.
Done.
That's what I want.
And he gets in your dreams.
Do you remember all the spoofs of all the different lightsabers when we first saw Kylo Ren's lightsaber? There's like the Hanukkah,
the Army
Hanukkah lightsaber,
knife.
the Swiss Army knife. Yeah, excellent.
What about Jocasta Nu as a like Hansel and Gretel type witch?
Oh my God, that's so scary.
That lures all the younglings and then eats them.
Listen, there was this Hansel and Gretel like live action movie thing that we watched when I was a kid in like second grade. We had to get permission like to see it because it was like kind of violent and stuff. And like the witch like takes the kids in and like fattens them up and turns them into gingerbread people and stuff. And it was so graphic. It traumatized me as a kid. Like I still frequently think about this. It was awful. It was so scary. Yes, frequently. Me and Caitlin talked about it last week. I'm like her. I need some therapy.
The lights cut off.
Dude, the amount of movies and books I feel like that I was exposed to in school where children just straight up died is kind of concerning when I look back on it. Like I think teachers were always like, could be you. Any day.
How else did you turn down all that candy from white vans? I mean, honestly.
I think you said just candy from white men. I'm like, well.
Well,
check
then.
for razor blades.
Well, thank you, Ken, for that question and for such a great segment and for being here, man. Throughout all of it, we're so happy to have you here, and we're excited to see who next week's Patron of the Week will be as well. A couple things before we get into Thrawn now. For book release news, I actually had a little bit of a special thing this week. This week, a kid's book, quote unquote, comes out called, here it is, A Jedi You Will Be by Preeti Cheeber. She is an author that's has a very vibrant Twitter presence. She's been writing a bunch of cool stuff, and she wrote this book. Disney Lucasfilm were kind enough to send it to me. And if you got younglings, y'all, that's like real life kids. It's seriously a must read. The book essentially is told from the point of view of Yoda. To the reader, to the child, essentially reading it, and it goes through Luke's trials in The Empire Strikes Back on his first trip to Dagobah, and it's Yoda kind of teaching you as you watch Luke train, and it's got this really beautiful artwork stuff. Like if I can show these pages here, like it's like very Dr. Seussian kind of deal.
Yeah.
And it's really gorgeous. It's really sweet, and I gotta say, as I was reading it, I was surprised, even as an older person without kids. Like, I was really emotionally just kind of charmed because it reminds you of the first time that you met Yoda whenever you watch that movie for the first time. So, real quick, super mini review. A Jedi You Will Be. It comes out tomorrow, Tuesday, October 6th. So, if you're listening to this later on in the week, you can go pick that up right now with the Youtini affiliate link, of course. Oh, and a shout out to Mike Diaz, who illustrated the book beautifully. Definite must add to every person's shelf. So we don't talk a lot about kids' books on here, but because I got sent that, I wanted to shout it out and say that sometimes the younger reader Star Wars books can be a little too juvenile, and a little they don't really do a whole lot for you. But even if you're a little older, it's not going to be a Missing Fables level Dark Legends type storytelling, but it will make you feel nice and warm inside. And you know what? In 2020, maybe we need it. You know, maybe you need Master Yoda to tell you it's all going to be okay. So A Jedi You Will Be comes out tomorrow. Definitely check it out. Additionally, on November 10th, as we want to remind you, from a certain point of view, The Empire Strikes Back is going to be released. And if you're watching in the chat right now, tomorrow, Tuesday, on Twitter, on both the Del Rey Star Wars Twitter account and the Youtini Twitter account, we'll be following along, they're going to be releasing all kinds of things about the authors, what stories they are writing, what characters they're writing. So make sure you get on that, pre-order that book. It's going to be a freaking blast. Okay, now, that is all I got. We're going to take a quick break to show you some of the beautiful merch you can get here at Youtini, and we're going to come back and put Charles in the hot seat for Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising.
Okay.
And we are back. I love those shirts. I'm wearing our Thrawn shirt right now. Again, if you want to go back in your audio, go look at the video on Twitch. You can see this gorgeous Thrawn shirt I'm wearing, designed by the glorious Jose Joxy himself, youtini.com/merch. All right, Charles, you've had a month off. Time to get to work, kid. Go!
I hope I remember how to do this, but all right. Let's start with the plot synopsis like we always do. Star Wars Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising by Timothy Zahn tells the story of the start of Grand Admiral Thrawn's rise to power amidst his own people in the previously unexplored Chiss Ascendancy. When the homeworld of the Chiss is attacked by another alien group amidst the chaos, the Chiss aristocrat demands reciprocation. However, General Bakif suspects there is more behind the attack than meets the eye. To discover the intricacies of the plot against the Chiss, he calls on the expansionary fleet's most cunning and unique officer, Thrawn. Together with Arlani, Thrawn must challenge both the mysterious alien threat and the philosophy of his own people if he's to save the entirety of the Chiss Ascendancy. All right, guys, rate the book 1 to 10. Don't tell me why just yet. Corey, let's go to you first.
I want to go last.
You want to go last?
Yes, I want to go last.
All right,
All right,
well,
he's
forget
going
you
last.
too then. Eric, what do you think
All
about
right,
this book?
I'm going to give this book a 9.4. 9.4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a good
All
one.
right. Wes, do you have a ranking for this book yet?
I think it's really good so far, and I should probably give you
Okay.
one next week.
Okay.
Here we go.
Have you finished A Jedi You Will Be yet?
That's the one that's keeping me from finishing.
I am going to give this book a 8.9.
Ooh, lower than I expected
Solid.
to see.
Breaking
Okay.
off the 9.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm giving this book a perfect 10.
Oh my god.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yo! It happened!
I'm giving this book a
Wow.
perfect 10. And like the reason I wanted to go last is because I know we don't usually dive into our reviews like very much this early in the show, but I wanted to give you a short like spiel here. Like, okay, so at Youtini, we try to objectively judge books based on 5 different categories, right? Plot, characters, originality, writing, and entertainment, all right? And I think this book is nearly perfect individually in almost all of those categories. Like, the plot moves along fantastically. The characters, this is like some of the best Thrawn writing I think we've ever seen from Timothy Zahn. I think it's incredibly original. I mean, he's been thinking about like the Chiss, the Chiss culture for like, God, what, 3 decades now? Like,
Yeah,
the writing,
this year.
yes, the writing is sheer flawless. Like, Timothy Zahn is really showing his experience here, and I couldn't put this book down. Like, I listened to the audiobook, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. So, based on the audiobook experience that I had and those 5 individual categories, I think it has to be a perfect 10 from my perspective.
Damn.
Wow.
There it is. And they're asking in the chat. This is, I believe, the first perfect 10 we've had on this show, at least for full-on roundtables.
It is. And
Nothing from
There
Corey.
it is.
I'm a fairly critical person, too. So, like
Oh, yeah, you don't like things.
That's right.
This is huge.
That's right. So, like, I was like, I think I talked to you, Eric, a little bit about this when we were reading the book. I was like, dude, I think I'm going to give this book a perfect 10. Like, I just absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. And you guys have heard me talk about the original Thrawn book, like, the canon Thrawn book, like the first of this series is definitely in my top 5. And I thought this was, like, leaps and bounds ahead of that book. So,
Yeah.
I got to give it a
I think
10.
Is your favorite canon novel ever?
it's up there. It's up there. Like it might not be my favorite canon novel, but like
it's in like the Master and Apprentice range at least.
Yes. Oh God, absolutely. Like if I had to choose between this and Master and Apprentice, it'd be hard. It would be very hard, I think, for me.
Wow. I want to say before we jump into on my end for my ranking, again, not explaining it to that level, but I do think this is the best Thrawn book we've gotten, Legends or canon. I think it's the best book Zahn has written purely from a technical standpoint as well. So yeah, I'm gonna second those.
All right, well, let's waste no time then and talk about why it's so good. We're gonna kick things off with the characters, and who else are we gonna start with other than Thrawn himself? So let's quickly just talk about the impact that Thrawn has had on Star Wars as a whole, both Legends and canon. How important is he, and how does he rank amongst your favorite characters? And with that in mind, how has this particular installment of his story affected that?
Man, Thrawn has been around for such a long time.
Yeah.
Like we've said this multiple times on the show before, but like I feel like we all owe Timothy Zahn so much. Like because I mean he really is credited with kind of kicking this whole thing off, because he wrote maybe not like the first like successful Star Wars books, but like he definitely wrote the first like highly recognized. They were on the New York Times bestseller list for like multiple weeks in a row. Like he's sort of credited with bringing life to the Star Wars expanded universe.
Yeah, and he like pushed it forward. Like a lot of the other ones before, and like the Brian Daly books, and the Lando books were like they all happened kind of within the movies timelines at least. Zahn was like cool, and then Episode 7 does this.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was, like huge.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean it was like on a different level. Like. And I think that's as both a credit to Zahn's genius and like to the freedom that Lucasfilm gave him when he wrote this stuff. Is like he wanted to write something that was original, but also true to the like original story, I guess, like the main characters and stuff. And I feel like the other authors, Brian Daly, like you mentioned, like they tried to just expand on George Lucas's writing. Maybe they tried to be Lucas in a way. They were trying to write like Lucas. So like. I don't know. It was just so original, and I mean, I met Timothy Zahn last year at Star Wars Celebration, and like I literally got misty-eyed after I talked to him. It was such a strange experience. Like I was just like, man, I've never like had a celebrity like crush like this. This is crazy. It was funny. Like in hearing him talk, like he's so well spoken, and he's clearly been around for all of it. Like Thrawn as a character is like you can't look at Thrawn without talking about Zahn. Like to the point that like I frequently mix up their names when I'm trying to say, yeah, you know, the new Timothy Thrawn book. Like I say that all the time because like they're similar sounding, and in this they have so much weight like together. Like you can't consider one without the other.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely true, and I think that's your opinion of Zahn and your opinion of Thrawn a lot of times are linked. Like for me personally, I've liked Zahn a lot. I've liked Thrawn, but he's never been a top tier character for me. I've appreciated his impact, like you're saying, Corey, and I've appreciated kind of the legacy that he's left behind. But like in the Thrawn trilogy, I was always way more interested in like the Mara Jade stuff and the main cast stuff. In his canon books, I was more interested in like the Anakin or Padme stuff than of him in alliances or like. So there's never been quite that moment where Thrawn takes center stage. And similarly in Rebels, like I really liked the main crew and how they dealt with him as opposed to just him. This book is the moment where I went like, oh, that's it. Because I think what happened in this book specifically for people like me that may not have loved Thrawn as much is it made him a well-rounded, vulnerable character with some flaws that was still going to win the day, which I think are my favorite kind of heroes. Like he had really sweet, intimate moments like with Cherie and Thalius and things like that, where he was really caring and calm, and you could tell that he actually had a lot of affection for people, and he's not just this closed-off tactician. Yet he's still the best tactician in the universe. So this is the first time I think that those two sides really played well together. So for people that may not have loved Thrawn as much like me, then put him in a top 10 characters list, this book kind of brought our two worlds together, Corey, like from the people that really like you that loved Zahn and put him up there, and people like me that maybe were a little hesitant. Right. I think that's the beauty of this book.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think you've honestly already kind of touched on the second point that I was going to bring up, which is based on a quote from page 138 about Thrawn, and it's Bakif talking about him. And it says, "For a moment, Bakif eyed him. The man was clever enough, and Bakif had seen his strategic and tactical abilities. The question was whether he had perhaps too much confidence in himself. If he did, and if that confidence made him overstep the line, some operation in the future could blow up in his face." And so, first of all, Eric, you mentioned Rebels, and without, talking too much about spoilers, that's some obvious foreshadowing there. Mm-hmm. And second of all, I mean, Eric, again, you've said on the show a bunch of times that basically Thrawn was like too omniscient. Like he was basically the perfect character. He outwitted Vader, or Anakin for an entire book with really no problem. And we never saw him have those moments of weakness. And in this book, we not only saw him have to deal with his own past failures, but also to show that weak side of him. I mean, he admitted flaws that he had throughout this book. And on page 141, it actually says he was embarrassed. Did you guys ever think we would see Thrawn embarrassed?
No,
absolutely not. No,
I mean,
that's what makes the book, though. Like seeing the character development and like seeing, as you said, Eric, seeing Thrawn like not as this ultra invincible Sherlock Holmes genius that can just I mean, I agree with you. Like that was our criticisms of kind of like both alliances and what was the third one called? Treason.
It was Thrawn
Grisk. Yes,
I think
that
was called Thrawn perhaps.
Exactly. That was our criticism of that book. It's like you have Thrawn in every single scene that he's in. He's just like, yes, like everything that happens, like he's already seen it happen in his head. And it gets a little tedious, honestly. And like we didn't have that happen in this book. It was different.
Yeah, like I did love how much shit the other chits would talk about him, like to the point where he's amazing in military. What about politics? No, he sucks at that.
Exactly.
Like, he's terrible.
Yes.
And I really liked that, they're able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about another quote here that I think was important for Thrawn. It's on page 174. It was Ziara and Thrawn speaking of the Liawi. And I should have said this up front, but guys, if I just butcher any of these names, like I'm sorry, but come on. Like
yes.
Even Mark Thompson had trouble with these.
Yeah, he admitted in our interview that he was like, this was a rough one.
Yes, hearing him pronounce, I thank God I listened to the audiobook because hearing them pronounce the Leoans is how you say that, by the way. Like
Leoi.
Is actually Leoi. Like the people.
Not even two L's. How is that possible?
I know. It's I have no idea, but that's how he says it in the audiobook. But like that was painful. If there's any criticism, that was hard. That was very challenging. How is it spelled, by the way? I didn't read the book.
Lioaoi.
Okay,
It's just all vowels.
Whole vowels and apostrophes.
Maybe it's not a second L. Maybe it's Leo. Shit, I don't know, man.
Anyways, this is Ziara and Thrawn talking about those guys, and it reads like this: "They won't try it again with the Ascendancy," he said, he being Thrawn. "But the problem remains, as does their chosen remedy. Once they've regrouped and replaced the ships you destroyed, they'll be back, attacking merchants from other systems. What happens to those systems?" Ziara shrugged. "They'll have to deal with the Liao on their own." "What if they aren't strong enough to do so?" Thrawn persisted. "Are we supposed to just sit back and watch them suffer?" Ziara looked him straight in the eye. "Yes." For a moment, they locked gazes. Thrawn turned away first. "Because we don't interfere in the affairs of others." "Would you rather the Ascendancy become guardians for the entire chaos?" Ziara asked. "Because that's where that path would take us. We would rescue one, then another, then a third, until finally we stood alone as bulwark against 1,000 different aggressors. Is that what you think we should do?" "No, of course not," he said, "but there has to be a middle ground." So I found this passage in particular to be so interesting because what is it about Thrawn that drives him to be so involved in the affairs of others in the chaos? Because we see that repeatedly throughout this book. Is it actually a duty to the Chiss Ascendancy, who he actually challenges in this passage? Is it just a duty to defend victims against the aggression of others? Why does he do it? What do you guys think?
So that's like the question, man. Like, and I think that is the beauty of a really good prequel story, right? Is like the entire time you're listening to it, reading it, watching it, like you're thinking of how did we get from this to where we know it's going, right? Like in this book is, I think one of the reasons this is so interesting for me is like the entire book, I was like trying to figure out in my head, what is Thrawn's motivation for being in the Empire, right? Because we've never actually addressed that. Like, so the whole time I was listening to this book and these philosophical conversations that he's having about like taking care of like all these surrounding systems and stuff, like we know he's motivated to be in the Empire for some reason, but why? Why is it? Is it like he's hinted that it's going to be to protect the Ascendancy somehow, but like, right. I don't know, man. Like, I love this stuff though. Like this conversations about like why does Thrawn believe what he believes is fascinating.
Yeah, I think this book really showed me that Thrawn has a lot of empathy, at least at this point in his life. He's at the point where, like you said in that passage, Charles, he doesn't want to sit by and do nothing while other people suffer. And clearly by the time he ends his career with the Empire, or like goes forward with the Empire, he's able to let go of some of that. But then you ask the question, does he truly believe that the Empire bringing order is the best way to save as many lives as possible? Because Thrawn does repeatedly show in this book that he's not willing to just carelessly sacrifice lives, which I think separates him from a lot of battle commanders. But he is very much about how can I save the most people possible, and I will find a logical way to do that. But also, we see him forming these individual relationships with people that he clearly values above others. So I think, like Corey's saying, that does make this so interesting, and I think I'm so glad we clearly have 2 more books to go with this, because I'm excited to see Thrawn's evolution in learning those lessons. Like, does he learn, okay, I can't be too emotional because then I will lose this? Or do I learn that sometimes I have to sacrifice systems because it's for the betterment of all? Like, those are hard lessons, and he's clearly already learning them, and I love that.
Right. Yeah, I think you guys nailed it, but I think my biggest question is the middle path that he's talking about, is that why he's with the Empire? And hopefully we learn that answer eventually. I don't think we'll learn it in this trilogy even, because, again, all this takes place beforehand, but maybe they'll surprise us.
Maybe. Maybe we'll see him go to the Empire at the end of this. Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they still haven't quite revealed how exactly that happened, right? Like,
yeah, they found him. They found him on that planet,
and he said, said that he was exiled, but that was a lie, doesn't he say?
Yeah, he lied, and he was sent by the Chiss to like essentially spy, and then he stayed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah. So that's all we know right now.
Plenty of mystery.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
There was some more mystery surrounding kind of Thrawn's origin. I mean, we didn't know really where he came from. We knew he came from the Chiss Ascendancy, but in this book, we actually learned that he was not exactly like a high-ranking individual from the beginning, right? He was not actually initially a member of the Myth family, which was one of the 9 ruling families, but he was actually adopted into it based on his exceptional skills. And we later learned that the patriarch of the Myth family, whose name was Thuraki, personally chose Thrawn to become a Myth. And on page 311, Thuraki, he says about Thrawn, quote, "I cannot help but feel that he holds the key to the Ascendancy's future, whether that future be triumph or ultimate destruction." So first of all, what I want to ask is, why do you guys think it's important that Thrawn's origin is outside of those 9 ruling families? Why is it important that he is an outsider?
Yo, I want to jump on this because, oh my God, that I love this stuff in this book. Give me 18 volumes on Chiss hierarchy, merit, adoptive, political trading of bloodline. Like, that was amazing. I loved every second of that stuff. And I think having Thrawn be someone who essentially has to audition to become part of a powerful family, because the head of that family that is already trying to be politically taken out of power by lesser people sees that he is the way forward, and he represents the progress of the family that is trying to be stalled by the lower people. Like, I love it so much.
Yeah.
I think to answer your question, Charles, specifically, I think Thrawn being an outsider lets him identify with outsiders throughout his career. He can always know what it's like to be someone that is on the outside of power, which means he will always be able to understand people that are trying to take down power. That's why he gets the rebels, because they don't have power. They weren't given anything. And he's like, cool, I know the lengths at which they will go to get it because I wanted to do that myself.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Eric.
Thank you. This was really good.
I also totally loved all that family stuff, man. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about the originality, right? Like when I'm talking about like that part of the Youtini score is like Zahn invented all this stuff. Like he had to have been thinking about that. There's no way that he just invented all this in the last year when he wrote this book.
When he got the contract for this one.
Yeah, he was like, I better go finally think about the Chiss Ascendancy. No, man, he's been thinking about this shit for like 25 years. Like, it's crazy. Like, and I absolutely love this sort of almost like the Godfather type of level of politics between all the families. I thought was fantastic. And Thrawn being an outsider, like you say, Eric, like maybe that is the key. Maybe that's why he is so empathetic about quote unquote outsiders to the Chiss Ascendancy. I appreciate those bits there, buddy
John
boy.
Booze.
John
Thank
Booze.
you.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah, I like that I now like you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding.
Yeah,
Like there you go.
exactly.
Exactly. What the heck is in your cheeks? Yeah. So I think that all that was fantastic. Like great points. I think it's interesting because I almost expected to go into this book and see Thrawn as not the outsider anymore, because that's all we've ever seen him as, and we were going to see him at home, amongst his own people. And nope, it's just Zahn like circumventing my expectations once again. He's still an outsider. I think he always will be, and it's hard not to relate to an outsider, right? Because we've all been there at one point or another.
Like he's still gonna ask for the Wi-Fi password. He is not in yet.
Yes, agreed. And the password is Thrawn sucks with an X and an exclamation point. All right, so we finally learn why Thrawn spoke of Skywalkers in such a sad, personal way in earlier Thrawn novels. And we had actually speculated on this show before that he may have had a daughter or something that was a Skywalker. But on page 227, we actually learn that it was an older sister of his who was taken from his family when Thrawn was just 3 years old, taken off to serve as a Skywalker in, the Chiss Expansionary Defense Force. So what impact do you think that had on Thrawn in particular, and how does it inform his character?
Quite a bit. I'll say, I think that losing a family member, like an actual family member, right? Because, the Chiss are so much about political maneuvering that blood family is kind of an afterthought. So to have a blood family member go through this thing that, again, at the age of 3, he can't understand, it makes perfect sense as to why he feels such a kinship with Cherry and, wants to make sure that she's okay and respects every Skywalker he comes in contact with. Like, even Thalius when she's younger. That's why he, they get along so well, because he treats them as people and not as tools from the get-go. And I think that little bit of tenderness is really important for Thrawn going forward. I loved that choice. It's heartbreaking, but I really loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eric, was that you that speculated that he had a sister that was a Skywalker? Was it you? Somebody on this show speculated. I think my idea was daughter. Yeah. Somebody speculated he had a daughter, or a sister, or something like that, or a family member. I thought of like our previous talk on this, like when he revealed that, of like I think we called that on the Living Force. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we did, but yeah, I loved it. I loved that it was like barely mentioned. Also, like it wasn't a huge thing. It was like he used that to connect with what was the little girl's name again? Cheery. Yeah, he used it to connect with Cheery, and that was fantastic.
Not gonna lie, I called her Cherie for the entire novel. Because I know Cheries in real life. I don't know any Cheries.
Hey, Cherie.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, another interesting quote that kind of came out of the whole Skywalker subplot in this book was on page 108. And it's when Thalius is talking to Thrawn about Skywalkers. And she says, "The Ascendancy does need us." "Perhaps," Thrawn said. She frowned at him. "Just perhaps? A conversation for another day," Thrawn said. So I think that begs the question, does Thrawn want to get rid of Skywalkers because of the experience that he had with losing his sister?
I don't think he wants to get rid of them. I think that's my thing. I don't think that he wants them to be over with. I think that he wants them to be respected, and I think he wants to... I in Thrawn's ideal world, there's like a program for essentially Skywalker rehab post their use, because it seems like a lot of them are kind of discarded at this point because their utility is done. The Chiss seem very utilitarian, right? Like you serve your purpose, but once you're done with that, we don't really care what you do afterwards, and then you kind of just get discarded. So I think that Thrawn recognizes their usefulness and recognizes why the Chiss need them, but having that experience, it's kind of like having a family member who's a veteran, I suppose. Like, you really kind of get involved in veterans affairs, and you're like, what happens after? I want to help. That's what I would guess.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what to make of it, but I thought that was a very telling quote, and I think we might see that resurface in some of the later novels.
Oh, yeah. If there's anything I'm sure about, it's anything that's like, that's interesting. It's all resurfacing in the next two. Like, Zahn... He knows. He got like so much of that like day old bread from Jimmy John's and just crumbled it all up into breadcrumbs and just laid it all over the place. Loaves and loaves and loaves.
Jimmy John specifically, Eric.
That's it. Yeah, they have the best day old bread.
Jimmy Thrawns. Okay, so on page 321, Arlani is talking to Thrawn. And that's still Ziara for those of y'all at home, in case you haven't read this book. Same person. And she's saying, you've been wrong before, you know. And he says, no, you're right. My failure with the Garwians, but this is different. This is war, not politics, which are just two sides of the same coin, Arulani said. You've never understood that or been able to deal with it. I know, Thrawn said. That's why we need to flip this particular coin over to the war side. So again, we see that Thrawn's acknowledging weaknesses that he knows that he has. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this quote in particular is if Thrawn is in fact sent to the Empire to somehow benefit the Chiss Ascendancy, he sure seems to be quite adept with politics because he seems to be maneuvering, the Empire and working directly with Palpatine and Vader pretty darn well. He's managed to hide his true motive for all this time. But I think that the statement also might imply that he could actually be trying to flip that coin over to the war side. Like maybe he's there, to have some kind of war initiated between the Empire and the Chiss. And I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on this while Coda is initiating a war against me and my left arm with his toy.
I know. I keep seeing your camera jiggle. I'm like, that's a tail. There's a tail whacking that. That's fantastic. Yeah, okay, so first of all, a point I want to make is Arlani in the audiobook is utterly phenomenal. She has this like sort of German accent, I guess. Would you call it a German accent, Eric? I think it's a...
Yeah, somewhere in there. Definitely like Eastern European.
Yeah, kind of an Eastern European accent.
But the lightness still.
And, oh my God, Arlani is an absolutely phenomenal character in the audiobook. Like, absolutely. She's so good. She's so good. Okay, so to answer your question here, like, are we going to see Thrawn sort of figure out politics, I guess? Or has he figured it out, I guess, is the question, like, by the time he makes it to the Empire? And, like, I think this analogy that he makes here, like, the fact that he recognizes that politics and war are two sides of the same coin, and that the Empire is so political. Like, think about, like, Tarkin and all the Moffs. Like, it's a very political environment. Like, I think he has figured it out by the time he makes it to the Empire, and I think we're going to see that evolve kind of as this trilogy plays out.
Yeah, I think that I completely agree. The fact that Thrawn doesn't know anything about politics and that is continuously brought up in this book, there's no way that can stand for 3 books, right? They're making such a big deal out of it in the narrative that it's got to be for the purpose of showing an evolution. And I think even by the end of this, Thrawn is learning to play a game, but he's also learning that there is a game. I think that because he wasn't raised in the myth family, like he had to get into this, like we said earlier. He wasn't maybe brought up with the knowledge of everything that goes on behind the scenes with the ruling families. So now he's like, okay, I'm going to get a little bit of that. I'm going to learn a little bit more. And then by the time he gets to the Empire, he's like, oh, I can run circles around you fools.
Some good points in the chat, too. John Dutch Vader says kind of a Ukraine accent for Arlani.
Ooh, yep.
And Cheryl points out that Eli has to help Thrawn with politics a lot. That's good. I mean,
yeah, when they're at the academy together.
That's right.
That's a good
that's a really good point. And like maybe that's what Thrawn figures out kind of as this goes on, is that like he doesn't necessarily need to understand politics or be good at it. He just needs to surround himself with people who are good at it and can teach him like the ways, which is what Arlani does in this book for sure.
Hey, that's how, I mean, that's kind of the best workplace environment too, right? Like the best bosses are the people that hire people that know how to do things they can't do. That's also how Youtini works.
That's right. Absolutely. And everything in my life.
Yeah, right? It should.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who the Arlani is for Corey, but let's talk about the Arlani to Thrawn. She's a character that we've known for quite some time now. She actually originated way back in Legends, but has slowly made her way kind of more and more into Thrawn's story and canon. And this book, I think by far, gave her the most character development. So what was your impression of the character before this book? And then how did this story in particular change your view?
I don't think I really cared about her before this book. Like, I mean, she had that short little bit in Thrawn Grisk.
That's it now. That's it.
Yeah, she had that tiny little bit in that book, Thrawn Treason, but like we didn't really get much of her there. And I didn't listen to the audiobook, so I wasn't expecting the accent there either. And like, so I didn't know that she was. I don't know. I figured like we had so many jokes about her being a romantic interest of Thrawn's that like. I don't know that I really had much of an opinion of her, but very quickly, like I definitely formed a very strong opinion of her in this book early on. Like their days at the academy together, and I love, by the way, that Arlani outranked Thrawn for most of the book, like or the whole book. I guess the whole book. Yeah.
She always does.
She's a Commodore now, and he's a senior commander, I guess. So. Like, I loved that she outranked him and could kind of boss him around and stuff, but always had his back also. So it was fantastic. That early Academy stuff was fantastic. I think I totally fell in love with Arlani during the scene where she called in General Bakif and they ran that drill against Thrawn.
Yes.
Great scene. Absolutely great scene. Like, it felt like freaking Ender's Game. Like the way he was, doing the stuff and moving the ships around and fantastic.
Yeah, she's like, hey, watch this. This is awesome. I agree. I'm also going to, for our audio friends, I'm going to crack a LaCroix here. Sorry. I didn't want to do it while someone else was talking. I'm going to take this moment to officially say that I was right in my Thrawn Treason prediction. Thrawn and Arlani banged.
Did they? No, they didn't.
Oh, no. But I'm going to take that victory now.
I have definitive proof.
Okay.
Do I need to read a passage for you, Corey?
Read it, please. Read the passage.
Read it, yes. Is it after they went on
because
a date?
It happened in the audiobook. I was not certain. certain.
This is the I saved this specifically to give Eric his due, and he's skipping ahead. He can't wait, so let's just go ahead.
I can't wait. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite couples in Star Wars.
This is page 102 after a trip to a museum together, as I'm sure you'll remember. And Thrawn says to Arlani, "Are you assuming we'll one day be at war with each other?" "Yes, and sooner than you think," Ziara said with a smile, "because after you finish, we're going to go downstairs to the dojo and go a couple rounds." I see, Thrawn said. "Stick or unarmed?" Ziara gave him the choice. He chose stick. Yeah, he did.
Oh, my God.
That is definitive proof.
That's a stretch. Oh, come on.
Corey, it was.
Oh, my God.
I'll tell you that.
It's one of those things that where it's more meaningful that we don't see it.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's left unwritten. It's left unspoken.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
it's like every good video game sex scene where like the two characters like lean in and the screen just goes dark and then it goes light and it's the next morning.
That's right.
Like, got it.
Exactly. And I hate to be that guy, but like I think I prefer that in Star Wars. Like Star Wars is like the romance is light, I think, in the grand scheme of things. And like we get some sex scenes in a couple of books, a couple of young adult books specifically. Like, and I'm like, do we need an Arlani sex scene? Like, I don't know that we do. And honestly, I'm not sure that I could read the passage without picturing Timothy Zahn writing it, which kind of freaks me out. I'm not gonna lie.
He was definitely writing it in that black turtleneck.
His black turtleneck. He's riding, and I'm just like, oh man.
He wears that to shower. I swear. He's like, and then Thrawn reached his languid hand over
He's like a bucket hat and a chain away from Run DMC.
That's right. Exactly. Oh man.
But all this to say, I did love Arulani in this book. I agree with everything Corey said. I loved the power she had. I loved how much she trusted Thrawn's instincts and like fought for him, but also being like, okay, this might mess up my future career, but I got to do what I believe is right, and I'm not gonna let these like, frankly, like dumb men that outrank me like boss me around. I know I'm correct, and I'm not gonna take no for an answer. And yeah, I also just love it's Timothy Zahn writing like cute date dialogue. It's I never thought we'd get that, and he's really good at it.
Yeah, it's
all
tasteful.
jokes aside, it's really good
and very true to
I
the
really-
characters. Like the whole
Yeah,
museum scene when they go to the museum together. It's very true to the characters.
One of my
That was
favorite parts of the
fantastic.
whole book.
Yeah.
And I love that Thrawn doesn't get it. Like he just doesn't understand what's going on, and Arlani is really like trying to be like my guy.
Right.
Yo.
Like, this is a date, and he's like, but the artwork. Let me show you how we can kill all these aliens because of the artwork. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
I feel like someone would be like, "Hey, so how long have you guys been dating?" And Arlani's like 7 months, and Thrawn's like, "We're dating." Like,
Exactly.
it would be one of those-
exactly.
She's like, "Shut up, honey." Yes, yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, speaking of, how important Arulani is to the character of Thrawn, let's get to page 172, and it's Bekif and Ziara talking about Thrawn. And actually, Eric, you kind of paraphrased this quote earlier on, but Bekif says, "Your assessment, Senior Captain," nodding towards the closed door. "He's brilliant, sir," Ziara said. "Excellent strategist and tactician. And his political shrewdness, poor to non-existent." Agreed, Bekif said.
It's one of my favorite quotes of the whole book. It's so
Right?
good.
And Bekif says he's going to need a steady hand, both to guide him and to prevent him from continually grabbing the wrong end of the fire stick. So I just realized this is maybe another reference to the dojo. I apologize. It's getting late. Y'all. Do you think that Arulani is serving that purpose? Like, is it her that prevents him from getting into so much trouble? And if so, what makes her the best person to serve in that role?
Yes, I think that's definitely got to be Arlani. And
Yeah,
I think Arlani is a genius, a different way than Thrawn is a genius. Like, she's a brilliant tactician, but she's a little better at like the big picture view, I think, whereas Thrawn is like this nitty gritty. Like, he sees the angle on the ship, and that means that these ships are gonna behave this way, and like he's really into the nitty gritty, like changing tactics based on tiny little details. And Arlani is a little more big picture. Let's like see how all this fits together, politics included. So
Okay. Yeah, I agree with both of you. I mean, I think Arlani is incredibly important to the character of Thrawn, and we see that repeatedly throughout this book. She really helps him figure out even his own leadership style, and that's both by being, I think, an example for him as someone, again, who is senior to his own rank, and just as a friend as well.
yeah, totally.
Now, on page 331, we see Thrawn first make the statement that he views others as merely, quote, assets. And later on page 378, Thrawn again makes that point while talking about Arulani. And he says, "Where I see non-Chiss as assets, she sees them as people." Thalius looked over at Cherry. "A lot of people saw Skywalkers as just assets too. Makes her a good commander." "Indeed it does," Thrawn said. "Certainly a better commander than I." So in your view, is Arulani the better commander?
Oh man, that is an excellent question. I think they're two different. They're two different styles. I think this again is a testament to Thrawn's genius and what makes him so likable. It's like two. When we read Thrawn, he's this ultimate invincible. Oh yes, the ships are gonna turn to the left, and we're gonna destroy them this way. Like, it's a little over the top, right? But like, we see these moments of weakness in this book where he's kind of humble, honestly. Like, he talks about people being better than him and having skills. Like, he freely admits that politics is like not his strong point. Like, I think that Arlani is different though. Like I already said, she kind of talks about the big picture. Is she better though? I don't know. Better is she's different.
Yeah, better's tough. I think honestly, Arulani and Thrawn are two brilliant co-commanders, co-workers. Like, I think like Thrawn says, their energy really works well together. I think that he brings stuff to the table that she doesn't, but she, in addition to being like a friend and a romantic interest, like is a mentor to him. And I think he is learning from her all the time. And I think the best partners, whether that be romantic, whether that be professional, the best learn from each other, no matter what. And I think that the way that Thrawn can acknowledge that shows how much he's already grown in the book and shows kind of how deep their connection can be. Now, when we're talking about who's a better commander, I agree. I think it's hard to decide because I think, are you talking about a specific one-on-one starship battle? Here's one thing. Are you talking about the morale of the troops? I think it's another thing. So I think that that's the strength of Zahn's writing at the end of the day, is showing two brilliant people that work really well together and that nonetheless are willing to constantly evolve based on the situation. So I love the two of them together.
Yeah. I think,
but there is one. I'm sorry. I'm gonna. I don't mean to like add a segue, but there is another character that I like even more than Arlani in this book that I think we're about to talk about.
Yeah, I think we probably are. But just to kind of round out Arulani, I weirdly feel like I don't want to make this like medical, but it's kind of like the Patch Adams debate. Like, do you want your doctor to be like exceedingly compassionate, or do you want him to be cold and effective? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel
totally.
like it's a similar thing with the leadership style of Thrawn and Arulani. It depends on what your favorite flavor of ice cream is, right? Each one of them is going to work for someone. I don't think that either one of them is actually better. I think that before this book, I would have questioned whether Arulani was as strong as Thrawn. And now I find myself questioning, is Thrawn as strong as Arulani? And I think that just speaks volumes for what this book did for her character.
Isn't that fun?
Yes.
I love that. I think that it's one of the best things about Star Wars books is that characters are constantly evolving in everything, in every book in which they show up, because power dynamic shift and social dynamic shift. And that's so cool because you're not going to be the same person your entire life. Like Thrawn is not going to be the same level of effectiveness his whole life. And if he never met someone that was as good as him at everything, then how bored would he be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Most important question: is there couple name Thrawnalani or Arathrani?
Thralani. It's got to be Thralani.
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 That's fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic.
All right, Coda is now actively destroying my set. He is slinking away with his tail between his legs. So let's move on to Thalius.
Morgan went crazy earlier. Sorry for y'all listening to that. I don't know what was going on with our dogs tonight.
So let's talk about Thalius. Really interesting character. I assume this is who you were referring to.
Yes,
Eric.
I love Thalius.
Yeah, she was awesome. She was an ex-Skywalker who we met at the beginning of the story, as she's actually trying to secure passage on Thrawn's ship in the hopes of being able to observe him. And she ultimately takes a job as caretaker for the ship's current Skywalker, Cherry. And we later learned that she was able to secure that position despite not having the credentials, thanks to help from Chiss leadership, who asked her that she spy on Thrawn for them in return. So first of all, let's talk about why Thalius wanted to observe Thrawn so badly. And that kind of stems from an early experience that she had with him when she was still a Skywalker and she was starting to lose her, third sight, I think?
Third sight, yeah.
Yeah, third sight. And Thrawn consoled her in their first meeting and told her that she would basically find a new purpose in life. And that really deeply impacted Thalius, and she became kind of like low-key obsessed with him. She was like Thrawn's #1 fan. Had like a book of newspaper clippings about his career kind of later on in the story. What were your thoughts, though, on that meeting? What did it teach you about both Thalius and Thrawn individually?
It kind of reminds me of a saying that someone always told me, that you can tell a lot about a person's character by the way they treat their waiters. You know, like when you have someone that is legitimately like serving you, if you are respectful and kind and thoughtful to them, then that tells you all you need to know about that person, because that's how they'll treat everyone of any stature. And I think Thrawn's instantaneous, idea to care for Thalius when she is a Skywalker, or when she's young, when he has no reason to really make sure she feels okay, told me everything I need to know about this Thrawn character in this book. And I think it's honestly a big reason why I latched on to him so quickly. And I mean, all of us can remember, if you were a kid and an adult or even like an older teenager or someone gives you the time of day and respects you, like that does a lot. It reminds me of Tarkin with Thane and Sienna and Lost Stars, like that sets you on a path. And I think I totally get why she was like, I need to get back to this person that did so much for my life. And like guys with Thrawn, I think it's just that almost in the reverse. Like he respected her, and there's no reason why he wouldn't respect her later when they meet up again. So I really liked what it did for both their characters.
Yeah, I do too. That's a good analogy with the waiter, Eric. Like, I thought we got a lot of kind of kind of key insights. Oh, appreciate the follow
Ooh.
there. I thought we got a lot of.
Don't mean to cut you off. Spice Den just put something really nice. I feel like Thalius became the sister Thrawn lost to the Skywalkers.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Just kind of seeing her again. That's
nice.
beautiful.
That's a subscribe right there. Kilo Pound 44. Appreciate
that
that
sub,
a
Kilo
ton.
Pound.
Holy smokes. Yeah, I'm totally with you. And that scene had a lot of very interesting insights into Thrawn as a character too, because we had the whole like he doesn't really he doesn't really follow the rules. Like he kind of bends them to his own will a little bit because like he clearly ignored the signs and went to the restricted area and the whole scene. So I think we kind of have some insights into Thrawn kind of as a tactician as well in that scene. But yeah, I don't know why exactly Thalius wanted to get back to Thrawn. I think you pretty much nailed it, Eric, that like maybe just because he had such an impact on her initially that she wanted to get back to that. But she really looked up to him, and I'm not sure if she was really seeking anything. Maybe she wanted to pay him back, maybe for the value that he had brought to her. I'm not really sure. Like that was never really elaborated on. And I think there was some sort of internal dialogue with her as well that she was maybe not even entirely sure why she had fought so hard to make it happen. You know?
Felt kind of compelled in a way. Cheryl did say in the chat, and I definitely got to agree. There is a bit of a crush aspect on it as well. I think
Perhaps.
she definitely has. There's a bit of an element of her having a crush on him to some extent for sure. But I also do like keeping it up in the air at least, because sometimes you got a feeling, and you got to go for it. And I think she did.
Yeah. Totally. And
I thought.
Sorry, go ahead, Charles.
I was just gonna say, I thought that their meeting kind of further enforced with me the fact that Thrawn's not actually a villain, like that he's actually inherently a good person. And he just kind of happens to be associated with villainous entities like Palpatine. And I mean, I think you can view the Chiss Ascendancy that way as well.
Totally.
But it's all just based on allegiances that we don't really fully understand.
Right. Yeah.
Completely.
Totally agree with that. And I think Thalius is. She's very. I like that they carved her out as being a unique character and not just like this. She's not just a mom-like character, right? Like, because that doesn't really exist in the Chiss Ascendancy. Like, she's this sort of, like she plays into a mom-like role by being the caretaker of a Skywalker, but like she was also super unique in the way that she did things. And I really like that even says a lot about Thrawn as a character. He likes to surround himself with people who think of things, like think of their role in new and unique ways, right? Like she took care of Shiri, like unlike any of the caretakers ever took care of her. And I love that he used her as a major part of missions later on in the book. Like she had a huge role with the makeup and the hostage situation. That was awesome.
She essentially became the co-protagonist of the book. I think she really carved out her own. I mean, she went on her own mission. She did plenty of looking into the Myth family herself. Like there was a lot going on with her, and I really liked that as well. Like we bring her in through Thrawn's gaze to kind of introduce her to the audience, but then she goes off and she does her own thing as well, so that like we get to learn more about the Ascendancy not only through Thrawn's eyes because he's only one place at a time, but Zahn can split them up as a narrative device to say, cool, here's also this stuff, because she was the one that went up the mountain and talked to the Patriarch, right?
Yes.
Remember that correctly?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. So like we got that whole look.
I forgot about that.
She literally ascended the mountain and talked to
that
one of
was
the most powerful
such a
ever.
great scene.
Like,
Talk about the family politics stuff. Like when she was making that huge hike up the mountain with all the all the pillars and the spikes and stuff. That was awesome. Like it was clearly
really got her own story arc.
She really did. She really did. And I hope that she continues to be a story. I really do think that Thalius is shaping up to be the Eli Vanto of this series. And I absolutely adore her as a character. I hope we get to see her in other stuff later on. And like, I wonder what they're going to do with her. Like, what's the final outcome going to be for her? Is she going to become a military entity? Like, is she going to be associated with Thrawn? Like, how's it all going to play out? How is she going to handle Thrawn leaving and going to the Empire? Like, I don't know. I have a lot of questions about Thalius. I thought she was a fantastic character.
I wonder, she very much seems to be, to have the confidence of Thrawn and the trust of Thrawn. And I wonder if she might not know something about Eli Vanto coming back to the Ascendancy. I think it'd be really cool to see those two teamed up.
Yes. Spice Den says in the chat, those two I could ship, Eli Vanto and Thalius.
Yeah. Eli and Thalius kind of getting together and maybe working for Thrawn kind of in the Chiss side of things. Like, I don't know, man. I love that we have that we have like Thrawn's middle story told. Like we have his story from all through the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy, the new Thrawn stuff, his role in Rebels, and we don't know what happens to him at the end of Rebels, and we also don't know his origin story, and we're kind of getting at both of those things. So, well, at least we're getting the origin story. Like, I assume they're eventually going to tell the.
It's coming someday.
It's got to come eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, I think that's about all the time that we have tonight. We've still got to talk about Cherry, about the Keep, about Kalori of Uandalan, about Yiv the Benevolent, and then we've got a whole bunch of overarching questions and Easter eggs, just like we always do. So we're going to save all that for part 2 come next episode.
Awesome. Well, to end out this show, then, we are going to give you all some updates on some goings-on at Youtini, just to keep you all informed. As a reminder, Youtini game nights are still going every single week. Last week, we had a doubleheader of Friday and Saturday night playing some Star Wars Squadrons. One night was good. One night was bad. Wes, looking ahead, what can we expect from Youtini game night?
This week, Andrew Bell is going to be playing. I believe he might be playing Empire at War again. Not sure. I believe he has Battlefront as well, but it might be a mystery up until Friday when he's ready to play. But we always have room for squadrons, so there could be some quick sessions that pop up here and there on Friday nights, Saturday nights of the 5 of us getting together and getting slaughtered and not winning any missions. So if you'd like to see that.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna have to like for a little bit less technical of a setup next time, because I definitely think that hindered our performance. At least I'm gonna go with that.
That's good. Yeah. But anytime anyone listening, you want to play some Star Wars Squadrons in Youtini.com/Discord, there is a Star Wars Squadrons channel that people are always looking for players, looking to hang out, and it is crossplay, so everyone can play together. No pressure, of course, but if you feel like it, head on over there. A reminder too. We have the Kanji Book Club every Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They are currently going through Dark Disciple by Christy Golden, one of our favorites. That is coming out weekly, also on the Patreon feed. We have a new Lightspeed Skipping episode that came out today, a very special one, I might say. So you may want to check that out. And if you didn't hear, the Ghost Crew show that Charlie and I do about Star Wars Rebels has switched to an every other week release schedule, so that will be coming out next Wednesday. I will pick back up on that, so you get one of those every week. And, of course, at the end of the month, Bounty Hunt will be returning with the 2nd season of The Mandalorian. Quick little fantasy football update, because, yes, Youtini people are playing fantasy football together. I want to give a quick shout-out to our very own Patreon manager, Timothy Manather, who at this point has the most points of the week. And, yes, if you were wondering, he is playing me. So... congrats, man.
I was
Good
wondering
job.
that.
You're the worst. But that has been a lot of fun. Because at Youtini in the Discord, we find people that have all these other weird likes. Like, we got people talking about Dune every day. We got people talking about random movies. Love y'all. As a reminder, you can find out all that stuff. Discord, Patreon, place to find us. And with that, my friends, all that Thrawny goodness, that is going to do it for this week's episode of The Living Force.